So I have been receiving questions about the RateMyTactic web app, particularly the left-hand side of the app and how it doesn't affect your tactic that much. So in this video, I'll try to address some of these questions as simply as I can, and at the same time I'm going to also explain how I understand the RateMyTactic app to work. So pay close attention. First, the web app is not a tactic generating app. It won't print out overpowered tactics for you just on demand like that. Those tactics that you could somehow use for the entirety of a season without losing a game, the unbeaten invincible tactics. This tactic web app, it's not going to generate an invincible tactic for you to go all through the season. The game is a lot more dynamic than that. And second, you need to understand that this web app doesn't take into account the player attributes of your players in your squad. The tactic is basically focused, or the web app is basically focused on your tactic and the system that you're creating in Football Manager. If you go on to create a tactic here that is perfect by the 5-star rating, you somehow find a way to generate a tactic that is perfect by 5-star rating, and then you take it into Football Manager, and then you have a group of players that are somehow not equipped to play that tactic, or they don't have the technical attribute to actually play that tactic. It's still not going to work. You're still going to have problems with the tactic. It's not that the tactic is bad, it's not that your players aren't good enough, it's just that there isn't a match between the tactic that you're trying to create and then the group of players that you have in your squad. So you need to find the balance and to find what works. And before I go on, you notice that I said a good tactic. Now, a good tactic and a perfect tactic are two different things. You look at the screen here, and this tactic, the setup that I have here is one of Nap's Holy Ghost Fire 433 tactic. It's one of the most powerful tactics on Football Manager recently. But then you notice that it doesn't have a 5-star rating according to RateMyTactic web app. So the tactic, as good as it is, it's also, let's say, it has some flaws in itself, or even though the game goes on to, it somehow goes on to work, it has some flaws. What I'm trying to say is the perfect tactic on RateMyTactic web app may not be the best tactic for your team or for your players, or indeed the most overpowered tactic in the game. What I've noticed is that most overpowered tactics, even Pep Guardiola in real life, Jurgen Klopp, most of the very best managers, they don't play by the rules, they don't play by the textbook version of the tactic. They go on to do something extraordinary, something out of the box that somehow helps them win a lot more games and helps them take advantage of the opposition. So with RateMyTactic web app, you can go on to create a 5-star tactic. I think looking at the Nap tactic right here, I'm going to try to tweak this and try to make it have a 5-star rating. So I'm going to change this guy to support, and then it shows here that the tactic is lacking solidity in key areas. So it's just to switch the defensive midfielder to defend, and then we're just going to try to find that balance. The right side, it's not very defensive, so I'm going to change my central midfielder to support duty. And as we go on and on, you're going to see that as much as the game knows what tends to, or let's say the game knows what is effective, what is tactically correct may not be what is so overpowered in Football Manager inside the game. So you need to find the balance between the two, and that's how I've realized RateMyTactic web app goes on to work, and it's the way I use it. So when I come onto this app, I'm not coming here to try and generate an OP tactic. I'm just coming in here to try and understand tactically how my team is set up and what I can do to tweak it and where I can go to make changes, something like that. So this is the 30-second water break. If you're new to the channel, remember to hit the subscribe button so you can get notified when more Football Manager tactic videos do come out here on the channel. I go on to create tactics for Football Manager and share my experience, also OP tactics that I go on to test out. You can get them here on DarkHorse FM. Do subscribe to the channel and leave a like for this video as well. And if you have more questions about the RateMyTactic web app, do also leave it in the comments. I'll try to address those questions in another video. Now you notice currently I have on screen now a 4-4-2 tactic that is actually 5-star potential on RateMyTactic web app. But looking at the way the team is set up on the tactic screen, I have a deep line forward on attack and a pressing forward on attack as well. Considering how these players are going to play on the field, they might turn out to play out very differently, and it may not be what I'm looking for. So in order to find your balance with the way your team is set up, you need to actually understand the players that you have and then the tactic that you're trying to create for those players. So when you come into the RateMyTactic web app, you have to create a tactic based on the players that you have. Although this tactic is perfect on screen, showing you 5-star potential, that's 5-star for a balanced mentality with no team instructions. Once you go on to attach team instructions like counter press and then to counter, the tactical perfection of the tactic tends to just fly away. And then in case I'm trying to build a possession-based style of play, and then I go and ask my team to play positively, something like that, and then because I want my team to press high, let's say I change this deep line forward to a pressing forward on support DT, and want my team to press all the way high up, I can go on here and then increase my line of engagement and then high defensive line as well, with much more often trigger press. This is high pressing football right now. And then you can see that the transition for my team, the way my team is set up to try and press the opposition high, counter instruction is likely going to cause us a lot more problems than help us defensively. So the RateMyTactic web app is going to tell you that this is a problem. It doesn't mean that it's not going to work in the game. It means that you need to be aware that this is a problem. So in case you're going on to create your tactic, it doesn't, when you look at all these suggestions, it doesn't mean that you should go and scrap your tactic, that my tactic is not perfect. That's not what it means. It means that once you go and check this option, remember that when you look at this instruction, so you can go on to click this and then right click, maybe go open to a new tab. It's going to take you to a new web page where you would see the explanation of how these instructions go on to work. It is intimately linked with a web page that has the full guide to Football Manager. This web page is called Guide to FM. It's Football Manager for Football Manager 2022 guide, but it's a lot updated now. I think they forgot to change this name to FM23. So it's an in-depth website on Football Manager and how you can go on to work on your training, your team morale, your squad building, transfers, everything about Football Manager. But the RateMyTactic web app is intimately linked with the tactical side of the web page. So everything tactical that is correct about Football Manager, what is tactically correct, when you go on to create it in this RateMyTactic web app, is going to measure that and kind of rate that in accordance to what is tactically correct in Football Manager. And then if you go on to do something that is contrary to that, like playing with a very high line and then asking your team to counter and counter press, the RateMyTactic web app is going to tell you that what you're doing might cause you problems in the game. So you need to remember that when you're doing it. It doesn't mean that it's not going to help you win. Sometimes you have to take risks and go on to win. Like if I have a lot of players up front and then my two pressing forwards are very aggressive, and then I go on to play the counter press, tactically it may be wrong, but because I have the players that can actually execute that instruction, it's going to work in my favor. And that's basically how Football Manager tends to work for me. You can go on to try this a lot for yourself and then try and play around with it. And remember that everything is not always perfect. You don't have the perfect squad all the time. There's always going to be something amiss somewhere. So you just need to find a way to try and tweak your team to your style of play and then adapt along the way. So I hope I've been able to answer some of the questions about the RateMyTactic web app. I know there's going to be a lot more questions, and if you do have a lot more questions about this web app, do let me know in the comment section. I can go on to address those questions in a different video. For now, thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking by. Go on to create Football Manager Tactic and try to enjoy yourself on Football Manager, really. I'll catch you with more Football Manager videos like this. See you in the next video. By the way, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, remember to hit the subscribe button so you can get notified when more tactic videos do come out.